At 17:32 on the afternoon of July 4th, 1946, Jenny Wanda Barkmann stood on a wooden platform at Biskupia Gorka Hill, overlooking the city of Gdańsk. She was 24 years old, strikingly beautiful, and about to be hanged for the murder of thousands. A crowd of 200,000 people had gathered to watch. They filled the hillside, the streets, the rooftops of nearby buildings. Many were survivors. Many had lost family members to the woman now standing before them in a simple grey dress, her hands bound behind her back. Barkmann looked at the crowd. Then she did something no one expected. She smiled. It was the same smile survivors remembered from the camps, the smile she wore while beating women to death, while selecting prisoners for the gas chamber, while kicking pregnant women in the stomach. The smile of someone who enjoyed her work. The executioner placed the noose around her neck. A Polish official read the sentence, "Death by hanging for crimes against humanity." Barkmann's last words, according to witnesses, were delivered with chilling calm. Life is indeed a pleasure, and pleasures are usually short. At 17:35, the trapdoor opened. The woman known as Beautiful Jenny and Mad Jenny dropped through. The crowd watched in silence as her body swung. She had been a camp guard for less than 2 years. In that time, she had participated in the murder of an estimated 60,000 people. She was 24 years old. The warning about Jenny Barkmann had come from the prisoners themselves, whispered in barracks, passed from inmate to inmate like a prayer for survival. Stay away from the beautiful one. In the Stutthof concentration camp near the city of Gdańsk, the female guards were known for their cruelty. But Barkmann was different. The others beat prisoners out of duty or ideology. Barkmann beat them for fun. Wonderklaff, a Polish prisoner who survived Stutthof, would later testify, "We learned to recognize her footsteps. When we heard her coming, we would try to disappear. If she saw you, if she noticed you, you were dead. She would find a reason. She always found a reason." The beautiful one, that phrase defined Jenny Barkmann's reign of terror. She was young, attractive, with dark hair and striking features. She could have been a film star. Instead, she became a killer. The prisoners learned her patterns. She targeted women who were pretty, as if their beauty offended her. She targeted women who were weak, as if their suffering amused her. She targeted women at random, as if killing was simply how she passed the time. She smiled while she beat us, another survivor recalled. That was the worst part. The smile never left her face. The promise the prisoners made to each other, "If we survive, we will tell the world what she did." They survived. They told. And Jenny Barkmann answered for her crimes on a hill overlooking Gdańsk. Stutthof was the first Nazi concentration camp built outside German borders and one of the last to be liberated. Located 34 kilometers east of Danzig, now Gdańsk, in occupied Poland, Stutthof opened on September 2, 1939, the day after Germany invaded Poland. Initially, it held Polish civilians and prisoners of war. By 1944, it had become part of the Holocaust's final chapter, a destination for Jews evacuated from camps further east as the Soviet army advanced. Between 1939 and 1945, approximately 110,000 prisoners passed through Stutthof. At least 65,000 died from starvation, disease, execution, and the gas chamber that became operational in 1944. The camp was not as large as Auschwitz or as infamous as Treblinka, but it was no less deadly. Prisoners called it the Hell by the Sea, a reference to its location near the Baltic coast, where the damp cold seeped into the wooden barracks and killed those already weakened by hunger and abuse. The SS staff at Stutthof included approximately 120 female guards. These women, SS Aufseherinnen, supervised the female prisoners, conducted roll calls, administered punishments, and participated in selections for the gas chamber. Jenny Wanda Barkmann arrived at Stutthof in 1944. She was 22 years old, and she had volunteered for the position. Unlike some guards who claimed they were conscripted or coerced, Barkmann had actively sought the job. She had trained at the Ravensbrück concentration camp, where SS women learned to view prisoners as subhuman, as vermin to be controlled, punished, and exterminated. Barkmann proved an exceptional student. Her instructors noted her enthusiasm, her lack of hesitation, her apparent pleasure in inflicting pain. At Stutthof, she quickly earned a reputation that terrified even her fellow guards. She was unpredictable, violent, sadistic. She beat prisoners for looking at her. She beat them for not looking at her. She beat them for existing. The prisoners gave her two nicknames: Beautiful Jenny, for her striking appearance, and Mad Jenny, for her psychopathic behavior. Both names were whispered in fear. By 1945, as the war entered its final months, Barkmann had become one of the most feared guards in the camp. Survivors would later estimate that she personally participated in the deaths of thousands through beatings, selections, and the death marches that followed the camp's evacuation. She was 23 years old. She had found her calling. Jenny Wanda Barkmann had not been raised to become a monster. Or perhaps she had, and no one noticed until it was too late. Born on May 30th, 1922, in Hamburg, Germany, she grew up in a working-class family during the turbulent Weimar years. Little is known about her childhood. The records were destroyed or lost during the war. What remains are fragments: a girl who struggled in school, who had few friends, who seemed disconnected from others. Some historians have speculated that Barkmann showed signs of psychopathy from an early age, a lack of empathy, a tendency toward cruelty, a fascination with power over others. But these are retrospective judgments made after the horrors became known. In the Germany of the 1930s, such traits might have gone unnoticed or been dismissed as youthful aggression. What is certain is that Barkmann came of age under Nazism. She was 11 when Hitler took power. She was 17 when the war began. She absorbed the ideology of racial superiority, of German victimhood, of enemies who deserved destruction. In 1944, at 22, she answered the call for female concentration camp guards. The job offered wages, housing, status, things that were valuable in wartime Germany. But it also offered something else: power. For the first time in her life, Jenny Barkmann had absolute power over other human beings. She could beat them, she could starve them, she could kill them, and no one would stop her. The training at Ravensbrück stripped away whatever moral restraints might have remained. Prisoners were not people. They were enemies of the Reich. Jews, Poles, political dissidents, criminals. They deserved whatever punishment they received. Barkmann embraced this ideology completely. But she went further than most. Where other guards punished prisoners according to regulations, Barkmann invented her own tortures. Where others killed efficiently, Barkmann killed creatively. She experimented with suffering, one survivor testified. She wanted to see how much pain a person could endure before they died. By the time she arrived at Stutthof, Jenny Barkmann was fully formed. The camp did not create her cruelty. It merely gave her permission to express it. The most damning testimony against Barkmann came from those who witnessed her selections. In 1944, as Stutthof expanded its role in the Holocaust, trainloads of Jewish prisoners began arriving from camps in the east, from Auschwitz, from the Baltic states, from Hungary. Many were women and children. Most were already weakened by months of starvation and abuse. Barkmann participated eagerly in the selection process. She would walk among the new arrivals, pointing left or right. Left meant labor. Right meant the gas chamber, a converted railway car that had been retrofitted to kill using Zyklon B. Survivors described her behavior during selections as gleeful. She would joke with other guards. She would comment on the appearance of prisoners, mocking the thin, the sick, the desperate. She would separate mothers from children with particular enthusiasm. One witness, a Polish Jew named Raquela Zelmanowicz, testified, "A mother was begging her to keep her daughter with her. The girl was maybe 12 years old. Barkmann smiled and said, 'Don't worry, you will see her soon.' Then she sent them in different directions. The mother to labor, the girl to the gas." Another survivor described Barkmann beating an elderly woman who could not walk fast enough during a selection. She beat her until the woman stopped moving. Then she ordered the body thrown onto the truck heading to the crematorium. These were not isolated incidents. They were daily occurrences. Jenny Barkmann killed as casually as others breathed. While Barkmann tortured prisoners at Stutthof, the war was collapsing around her. By January 1945, the Soviet army was advancing rapidly through Poland. The SS began evacuating camps, forcing prisoners on death marches westward to prevent their liberation. Stutthof was among the last camps to be evacuated. On January 25, 1945, the main evacuation of Stutthof began. Approximately 50,000 prisoners, most of them already starving and sick, were forced to march through the frozen Polish winter. Those who could not keep up were shot. Those who collapsed were left to freeze. Thousands died on the roads. Jenny Barkmann was among the guards supervising the death march. Witnesses described her behavior as consistent with her conduct in the camp. She beat stragglers, she shot prisoners who fell, she seemed energized by the suffering around her. One survivor, Maria Kowalska, testified, "We marched through the snow for days. People were dying all around us. Barkmann walked beside us with a whip. If you slowed down, she would hit you. If you fell, she would shoot you. I saw her kill at least 20 people during that march. She was smiling the whole time." By April 1945, the Reich was in its death throes. Hitler committed suicide on April 30th. Germany surrendered on May 8th. The war in Europe was over. Jenny Barkmann tried to disappear. She shed her uniform, assumed a false identity, and attempted to blend into the chaos of post-war Germany. Like thousands of other perpetrators, she hoped to escape justice in the confusion of defeat. She failed. In May 1945, British forces captured Barkmann near Hamburg. She was identified by former prisoners who recognized her face, the face that had haunted their nightmares. "I would know her anywhere," one survivor said. "I saw that face every night in my dreams, the beautiful face that smiled while she killed us." Barkmann was transferred to Polish custody. Poland had requested extradition for all Stutthof personnel. The camp had been on Polish territory, and Polish citizens had been among its primary victims. In April 1946, she was brought to Gdańsk to stand trial alongside 10 other Stutthof guards and officials. The proceedings would become one of the most significant war crimes trials of the immediate post-war period. The Stutthof trial began on April 25, 1946 in Gdańsk. 11 defendants faced charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Jenny Barkmann was the youngest and the most notorious. The courtroom was packed. Survivors filled the gallery, facing the people who had tormented them. Journalists from around the world documented the proceedings. The public demanded justice. The evidence against Barkmann was overwhelming. Witness after witness described her cruelty, the beatings, the selections, the murders during the death march. They described her smile. They described her pleasure in causing pain. Barkmann's defense was minimal. She claimed she was following orders. She claimed she had no choice. She claimed the witnesses were lying or exaggerating. The court was not convinced. The testimony was too consistent, too detailed, too numerous to dismiss. One of the most damaging witnesses was Wanda Klaff, who had survived Stutthof and the Death March. She described watching Barkmann beat a pregnant woman to death. The woman was begging for her life. She was holding her stomach, trying to protect her baby. Barkmann laughed and kicked her. She kicked her again and again until the woman stopped moving. Then she walked away, still laughing. Barkmann showed no emotion during this testimony. She sat in the defendant's dock with the same calm expression she had worn in the camp, as if the proceedings did not concern her, as if the deaths she had caused meant nothing. On May 31st, 1946, the verdict was announced, guilty on all counts. The sentence, death by hanging. Barkmann received the news without visible reaction. She did not cry. She did not protest. She simply nodded as if the outcome had been inevitable. The execution was scheduled for July 4th, 1946. It would be public, conducted on Biskupia Gorka Hill before thousands of spectators. Poland wanted the world to see justice done. On the morning of July 4th, Barkmann was transported to the execution site along with 10 other condemned war criminals. She was dressed simply, her hands bound, her expression calm. As she climbed the scaffold, she looked out at the crowd. Survivors stood in the front rows, watching the woman who had tormented them prepare to die. Then came the smile, and the final words, "Life is indeed a pleasure, and pleasures are usually short." The trapdoor opened. Jenny Wanda Barkmann died at 1735, aged 24. The question that has haunted historians ever since, did Jenny Barkmann ever understand what she had done? The evidence suggests not. Throughout her imprisonment, her trial, and her execution, she showed no remorse. She offered no apologies. She expressed no guilt. When asked by a journalist before her execution if she regretted anything, she reportedly replied, "I did what I was supposed to do." This was not the defense of a woman who believed she had no choice. It was the statement of someone who believed her actions were justified, or who simply did not care whether they were. Some psychologists have analyzed Barkmann's behavior and concluded that she exhibited classic signs of antisocial personality disorder, a lack of empathy, a disregard for others, a pleasure in causing pain. The camp did not make her a psychopath, it simply gave her victims. Others have argued that the Nazi system created people like Barkmann, that ordinary individuals, given absolute power over others and stripped of moral constraints, can become monsters. The truth is probably somewhere between. Jenny Barkmann was both a product of her environment and an individual who made choices. The system enabled her, but she chose to excel. Jenny Barkmann was one of 11 Stutthof personnel executed on July 4th, 1946. The public execution at Biskupia Gorka was one of the largest in Polish history. An estimated 200,000 people attended, survivors, families of victims, ordinary citizens who wanted to see justice done. Photographs and film footage of the executions were distributed worldwide. The Stutthof trials continued for several years. By 1949, approximately 70 former camp personnel had been convicted. Many received death sentences. Others received long prison terms, but most of Stutthof's staff escaped justice entirely. Of the approximately 3,000 SS personnel who served at the camp, fewer than 100 were ever prosecuted. The rest disappeared into post-war Germany, assumed new identities, and lived out their lives in anonymity. Stutthof itself became a memorial and museum. Today, visitors can walk the grounds where 65,000 people died, past the wooden barracks, the crematorium, the gas chamber. The camp stands as a reminder of what happened and who made it happen. Jenny Barkmann's grave is unmarked. Like other executed war criminals, she was buried without ceremony. The woman who had smiled at her victim's suffering was erased from memory, except as a warning. History remembers Jenny Barkmann as one of the most sadistic concentration camp guards of the Holocaust, and she was. Her cruelty was exceptional even among the SS, noted by her superiors, feared by her victims, documented at her trial. But Barkmann was also in some ways ordinary. She was young, she was attractive, she had grown up in a normal family in a normal city. Nothing in her background predicted the monster she would become. This is perhaps the most disturbing lesson of her story. Evil does not always announce itself. Sometimes it wears a beautiful face. Sometimes it smiles, and sometimes it volunteers. Today, the Stutthof Museum preserves the memory of the 65,000 who died there. Visitors come from around the world to bear witness. Among the exhibits are photographs of the perpetrators, including Jenny Barkmann. Her face stares out from the display, young and beautiful, a reminder that monsters can look like anyone. But the lesson of Jenny Barkmann endures. Life is indeed a pleasure, and pleasures are usually short. Those were her final words, the words of someone who viewed murder as entertainment. Some people are born without conscience, some are made without it, and some, given the right circumstances, discover they never had one at all. If you found this story as compelling as we did, please take a moment to like this video. It helps us share more forgotten stories from the Second World War. Subscribe to stay connected with these untold histories. Each one matters. Each one deserves to be remembered. Leave a comment below telling us where you are watching from. Our community spans from Gdańsk to Glasgow, from survivors to students. You are part of something special here. Thank you for watching, and thank you for keeping these stories alive.